All right. Deontay Wilder has exceptional numbers. Almost a million people watched him fight Dominic Breazeale in a fight that lasted about 2 minutes. We'll talk about that in this video coming up next. All right. So this video will be a request from somebody that asked me if I would make a video when Deontay Wilder's fight against Dominic Breazeale flops. I'm here making a video and it didn't flop. 1 million people watching already tuned into a fight that lasted 2 minutes and 36 seconds is pretty daggone good, man. Especially if you compare it to other fighters on that same network who are generally recognized as up-and-coming potential superstars in the sport, like Errol Spence Jr. and Mikey Garcia. Very, very, very solid. Now, the article came out where I saw it was Keith Eidig from Boxing Scene came out with the numbers, and it said that it peaked out at 990,000 viewers. That pretty much is 1 million. So I always round up, even for numbers with guys that you might not think that I was too impressed with the numbers. Roughly it's 1 million, but we'll go with 990,000 for a fight that lasted just about between 2 and 3 minutes. I think more than likely was going to be pacing towards about 1.3, 1.4 million people watching. And I think that is pretty exceptional. Now, the reason why I believe that it probably would have came in around 1.3, 1.4 million is because of the 2 fights that Deontay Wilder had with Breazeale Stiverne. Breazeale Stiverne's first fight with Deontay Wilder, which went 12 rounds, did about 1.3 million on Showtime. Very, very solid numbers. And the second fight, which was a one-round knockout, did about 824,000 views. Peaked at about 824,000 views on Showtime. So if you think about the difference between those two numbers, you say, okay, well, a one-rounder with Breazeale Stiverne was 824,000, but when the fight went all the way to 12 rounds, it got up to 1.3 million. Then you start roughly 170,000 beyond that. Move that up, you're looking at about 1.4 million people watching that fight. And on a network that is as small as Showtime, that's significant. Another way to see the significance of it is if you compare these numbers with Errol Spence Jr. and Mikey Garcia's numbers. Errol Spence Jr. also had a one-round knockout against Carlos Ocampo. I believe that was in March of last year. I can't remember the date. Please forgive me. But his fight that the March fight was against Mikey Garcia. But the last fight that he had that was on Showtime, regular Showtime, was against Carlos Ocampo. It was a one-round knockout, and it did 726,000 peak in the first round of an Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. versus Carlos Ocampo. That is 200 and roughly 260. Is that 265,000 less than what Deontay Wilder just did? Now, if Errol Spence Jr. got very, very solid numbers and that propelled him and Mikey Garcia, who, by the way, also did around 725,000 viewership in his unification fight, 12-round unification fight against Robert Easter. If that can establish those guys as major attractions in U.S. boxing, then I don't know what you can say about 1 million in 2 minutes. That's pretty significant. So, excellent show from Deontay Wilder. Now, this also, just so you know, it really did break 1.1 million between the people that watched it on live TV the people that streamed it, and the people that watched it on replay after the fight, after it was available on replay in the streaming service. Now, I think those numbers might be dampened a little bit by the 7 to 15 million people that watched the highlights that went viral all over the internet. So even when we look at the total numbers of people that tuned into the fight, that doesn't even begin to speak about what the total viewership of that fight was, because it was so short that you could dang near show the whole thing on a YouTube video and not get a copyright strike. That knockout, the one punch knockout, went absolutely viral. So again, I think that my prediction for that fight and what I thought it was going to be was this. I thought that it was going to be around 1.2, 1.1, 1.2, somewhere around there, million people were going to watch it. But that's because I thought the fight would go 6 or 7 rounds. If somebody would have asked me, well, how far do you think the fight is going to, how many people do you think will watch the fight if the fight lasts 2 minutes and 30 seconds? I might have said, oh, I don't know. That's a tough question, because a lot of times you have people, you got to assume that some people might have, turned the TV on a little late. They might have, had to go out to get some popcorn, right? Something like that. Because it's always the case that the fight, that's why they have averages and peaks, right? Where you'll say, well, the average for the fight was 836,000, but the peak was, 1,200,000. Because people turn on the TV and they come into the fight at different times. And usually they might say, it's the first round, second round. And they just, people just kind of gradually, flow in the building. That's just how it goes. So if somebody would ask me that, I wouldn't have been able to tell them. I doubt I would have said 1 million. All right. I doubt I would have said 1 million. I think that I probably would have said something like, 700,000, 800,000 in the first 2 minutes of the fight. 800,000. So to know that it was 990,000, just about 1 million, man, that's better than I would have thought that it would have been with that short amount of time. And again, I think that I already said it, but if you look at the numbers for Breazeale, you see that is for that first round knockout. That's 824,000, I think the number was. If I'm wrong, forgive me. It'll be up in the graphics. But to see that amount of increase between first round knockouts, that's how I love playing with numbers. I'm not the best with numbers, but I love playing with them, right? So you say, okay, his last one punch knockout had 824,000. That's a 20% increase. What is that? 25, almost 30% increase. Between 25 and 30% increase of viewerships between his last one punch knockout and this one punch knockout. And by the way, man, don't you gotta love Deontay Wilder when you can compare the stats for one punch knockouts? Not just one punch knockouts, but first round one punch knockouts. I can actually go and say, let me see. That's why I like Deontay Wilder and I like Errol Spence. I can actually do a comparison between multiple first round one punch knockouts with these guys. Deontay Wilder's a monster, man. Absolute monster. But this is what you come to expect with Deontay Wilder on Showtime. And remember, for the people that are not from the United States, the Showtime is a relatively closed pool of viewers. There's significantly fewer viewers for Showtime than there are subscribers on HBO or on Fox or on ESPN. So it's pretty much a very small pool, or not a small pool, a smaller pool, right? Not quite as small as the number of US viewers for DAZN, but raw naked eyes on the fight. Raw naked eyes on the fight. Canelo Alvarez was around 600,000 concurrent streams for DAZN. Deontay Wilder did 330,000 more viewers on Showtime. Both of them, by the way, are closed networks that you need subscriptions to watch. So that is a bit more of a fair comparison between Showtime and DAZN. Of course, though, the advantage that the disadvantage for the numbers for Canelo are that there's just not as many people that are currently subscribed to DAZN. So all in all, big time success in the viewership numbers for Deontay Wilder. Chop it, let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out.